The workout has to have a story. And by that, I don't mean narrative story, but it's got to have like some psychological engagement.
The people that are doing it have to have a connection to what they're doing. Being stronger improves your body composition.
A bigger muscle is a stronger muscle. There are some people
don't have a lot of muscle, but are crazy strong.
And body composition means a lot of things. It can mean bone density. It can mean hormonal health. Obviously, it means the amount of muscle mass you have, reduction of body fat. Simple workouts are the most difficult. If you ever walk into a gym and it just says back squat on the wall and there's nothing else, like, be worried. I think the way you have to think about it is not so much in terms of like, how am I going to reach my goals in X amount of time? I think the way you want to think about it is like, how can this next 4 weeks put me in the best position to reach my goals?
It's your decision and it's your control, and you're the one showing up to the gym. You're the one that's focusing on the set, and you get better and better results. It gives you power. It's a great way to start a process of self-empowerment.
The person who can do that for 5 years is going to win. Are you not willing to invest $20 into this goal, into yourself, into your health and well-being? 130 training phases so far. This is the best summer training program we've ever done.
I love it. What is it called?
It is called Kyle, I don't know how much we're charging people, but it's not enough. This is the best summer workout program we've ever put together.
No.
Yeah, it is.
Lay it on me.
So it's got a little bit of everything. We've got mobility work, so you can move well, built right into the warm-ups. So even in the warm-ups, heart rate's up, core temperature's up, you're building work capacity, you're sweating, you're going to feel like you're working out. Most warm-ups feel like, why am I doing this? Why am I stretching? This is like, I'm already into it right away.
This is a serious warm-up.
Serious warm-up.
You're working out in the warm-up.
Yeah. And then typically for strength training, what we do is like, hey, do a set and then rest because, rest, get prepared, recoup. This does not allow for any of this. So we're going to do our strength training is going to be on the clock. So there's a timer on it. We're going to combine 2 movements, a lower body movement and an upper body non-competing movement, or vice versa.
So you can do more work.
You can do more work.
I see what you're doing.
Yeah, and you can you're basically shuttling all the nutrients around your body. So you're basically like
pump upstairs.
Yeah.
Pushing the pump downstairs.
Right. So you're basically combining like, you're putting a lot of metabolic demand on your body. And this is all going to be on the clock, but it's not going to be light. We're still doing like fairly high percentages, fairly low reps in reserve. So a lot of strength demand, a lot of metabolic demand, a lot of mental fortitude needed. So it's a little bit of that. Then we're going to go to our assistance work, and we're talking about the beach muscles, the things everybody loves. Glutes,
you have my attention.
Shoulders,
yes,
biceps,
yes,
triceps. If you're wearing a bathing suit, a bikini, a one piece, does not matter what it is, these are the muscles that are going to show, that are going to pop out and make you look great on the beach. And then kind of the real deal, which is our finisher, our thaw, which we're calling the coffin, because you'll be put in a coffin and you'll also be coffin. See what I did there?
Oh, you're such an old man.
Yeah, terrible dad joke. So, but what it's going to do is it's intervals, get your heart rate really high, short recoveries, get it back up. Because really the key to like looking good, particularly in a 4-week training phase, of course you want to work on the musculature and the strength and build up that way. But it's trying to use up a lot of calories and really get lean in that amount of time. It's a little bit easier to lose body fat in 4 weeks than it is to gain muscle. We are, of course, going to try to do both in a little bit of a body recomposition type of phase here. But we really want to make sure that like in the warm-ups, in the strength training, in the thaw, heart rate is up, metabolic demand is up, calories are being burned because you're going to build the muscle, but you have to kind of reduce the fat over it. And that is why this is the best summer program we've ever done. 130 training phases so far. This is the best summer training program we've ever done.
I love it. What is it called?
It is called the Furnace.
Oh, yeah.
Because
turn up the heat.
Turning up the heat, burning body fat.
I love it.
Yeah. A lot of mental fortitude, a lot of work. People are going to really enjoy this one.
All right, so let's like break down training programs in general, and then maybe we can dial in a little bit more of why this program or speak a little bit more about why this program is so great to do, leading into the summer. So like, for people that don't spend all their time designing training programs for, hundreds of people, what should a training program be? Like, what are the commonalities that pretty much all good training programs should have?
Yeah. So I think a few things, which is one, you need to figure out what it is you're trying to achieve in that program.
Yeah.
So that's like kind of the first thing.
Have an intent.
Have an intent.
Have an
know
outcome,
what you're shooting for.
An outcome that you're trying to get from this program.
Yeah.
That's
then
important.
number two, I would say then you want to follow the rules of exercise science that will deliver those outcomes.
Yeah.
So
don't just go off logic.
Yeah.
Look to the people that have researched this in labs and studied it over and over again.
Yeah.
Follow their evidence.
Yeah.
They've even done the work.
Totally. Or even anecdotal evidence. There's plenty of people who've worked out who've gotten these results. Like, what are they doing?
Yeah. Right.
So combination of those two.
So follow the evidence.
Follow the evidence, whether it's anecdotal or research-based.
Yeah.
Ideally a combination of the two.
Right.
And then lastly, you need the workout has to have a story. And by that, I don't mean like a narrative story, but it's got to have like some psychological engagement. It's got to,
the people that are doing it have to have a connection to what they're doing.
Yeah. And it's got to progress week to week, and it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So those are the three things. Where are you going? What are the best practices to get you there? How do we keep it moving from week to week and tell the story?
Yeah.
So that's the commonalities.
So for this phase where we're leading into the summer, we're in typically in a performance block, where we're doing a lot of work and putting a lot of things together. How did you choose to do all these things, like in the different sections of the program? Like going back to the warm up. Yeah. Your thought process was, we need to get people like moving quickly, feeling like they're working out. It can't be a lot of like stretching and chilling or breathing. That wouldn't really be appropriate for the outcome, right? Right. The outcome of this phase is we're spending 4 weeks to get people into great body composition so they go into the summer feeling good about how they look and feeling confident in their swimsuit, right? So start them off with something where they're moving a lot, but obviously not throwing them into like the most intense stuff right away, right? You still need to, or probably should consider, like, you're going from 0 to something.
For sure. Yeah. You can't just throw your heaviest weight on the bar, walk in the door and move it.
It's not a good idea. Like, you could do that, but it probably wouldn't be, probably wouldn't follow the evidence.
Probably suboptimal. So the things we know about warm-ups, right, is that getting heart rate up and core temperature up tend to actually like be very good for warming up. So that is a very effective warm-up, even for strength training. Right? This is not just cardio. Mm-hmm. So that's what gets your muscles more pliable, gets your body prepared for training. Mm-hmm. But we also know that like full range of motion or longer ranges of motion, particularly ranges of motion in the stretched position, tend to have better outcomes when it comes to muscle gain, body composition. So we're combining this like kind of higher heart rate idea with some mobility work so we can just easily get into these full range of motion positions.
So what's this look like? Like how many exercises, how long, or how many reps do you do?
Yeah. So we're going to go with 3 mobility drills in the warm up, and we're going to superset them or alternate them with like submaximal movement specific warm ups. So what that might look like as an example is we'll start with like an empty bar set of back squats. Then we'll go to mobility drill 1. Let's say it's like a cat cow or some sort of like hip opener or pigeon stretch or something like that. Yeah. And then we'll continue to alternate. We're going to make the back squats a little bit heavier as we go, but probably stay at 50% or less, and just alternate between our back squat sets and these mobility drills.
So building that mobility into the warm up, basically.
Yeah, building the mobility into the warm up so it doesn't feel like it's wasted time.
Yeah.
It actually, it's the squats are light enough and the mobility work is not very stressful that you don't need rest periods here. Right. You can just bang out like back and forth between the two. So 5-6 minutes later, you're loose, you're opened up, you've done the warm-up sets of the main strength work, your heart rate's up, your core temperature's up. If you're me, you're probably sweating a little bit. So, 5-6 minutes,
which for
you're
me
ready
is the
to
hardest
train.
part. I have an aversion to warming up. I hate warming up. I shouldn't. It should be the easiest part of the workout. I always hate that process of going from not training to like into the mode of training.
Yeah. Well,
Sucks.
It's hard to get your mindset right. So there's that. Two is like no one who really likes to train likes to feel like they're just wasting their time in the gym. So that doesn't feel great. And let's be honest, like the first few reps of anything, particularly like a multi-joint movement, like a squat or a deadlift, feels terrible.
Yeah.
Like that is universal, particularly if you're like a stronger person. So how do you kind of get away with not having it feel like I'm doing a static stretch for 3 minutes, I'm doing air squats for 2 minutes? That stuff's fine. It's effective. But how do we get away from that and get the mentality more of like, I'm training right away and this is helping me and I'm getting in good positions and this only lasted 6 minutes and I'm at my working sets and I feel like I've wasted no time in the gym.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
So we'll say like any good training program is going to have some component where you're warming up, right? Like it should have some intentional process where you're going from, walking in off the street to like into training, and it's going to help you prep better, be more prepared. What about the next section? This is the heavier lifts, right? This is like our primary strength training. So if we're going to angle that to try to get an outcome of better body composition over the month, what are you thinking there? And maybe like explain in a little bit more detail how you laid out this program and how it conforms to that outcome.
Yeah. So typically after our warm-ups, we go to our heaviest lifts of the day, right? These are our compound barbell lifts. Sometimes we'll do 2, oftentimes we'll only do 1. And because we're trying,
and this sounds crazy to a lot of people, man.
Yeah, I know. People are used to like circuits or HIIT or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, what do you mean one movement?
Yeah.
Right? One movement and not a ton of reps either. We're not like 20, 30 reps, like 5 or 6 or 7. Like what are the rep schemes for the heavier lifts?
Yeah, I mean, we tend to be, in this phase, will be anywhere between 4 and 8 reps.
Yeah, and this is a body composition phase.
Even in the body composition stuff, because we're going to get to higher rep stuff later. But, strength.
So this is a good question. Like, if you're trying to improve your body composition, why does it serve you to do sets of like 4, 5 reps?
Yeah, it turns out, like we mentioned the research before. Yeah. It turns out in the research, like anything between 5 reps and 30 reps will work. Obviously, the weight on the bar is going to have to be different. But the lower rep work, which like really is what a barbell is really best at, also allows you to get stronger, which is nice. Very hard to get stronger at like 30 reps, right? The weight is just a little too light.
If you're not getting stronger, you're getting weaker. Is there any truth to that? Like you're never really staying the same, right?
Yeah. If you're not getting stronger, you're certainly not getting stronger.
Right.
And and the nice thing is like, if you can, build up your 5 or 6 rep squat, for example, your 30 rep will go up.
Yeah.
If you just do 30 reps all the time, your 5 or 6 is never going to move. Right. So like, and then if you can do your 30 reps with heavier weights, those 30 rep sets are more effective as well. So like the strength really serves.
Yeah. I wonder, like, is there any evidence that being stronger improves your body composition? Because I know it's not direct, but empirically, just watching, strong people tend to have better body composition.
Yeah. A bigger muscle is a stronger muscle. This is true. Now, there are some people who are surprisingly strong, who are like light, people who...
the other way, like don't have a lot of muscle, but are crazy strong.
But
those are the
exceptions.
You don't really see anybody that has tons of muscle that is weak.
Right.
You just never see it.
Right. And those other people either have exceptional technique, really good genetics, or just built very well for specific lifts. Olympic weightlifters or power lifters tend to look a certain way. And those leverages and that mobility advantage is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
But for most people in the gym, if you see someone who looks big and strong, there is a good chance that they are big and strong. Even bodybuilders who do not train necessarily for strength, they're training for muscle size and kind of aesthetics. those people are not weak. They are moving big weights. Like,
Yeah.
do not let that fool you that they're like not that interested in strength training. Even if they're lifting light weights, they're typically capable of lifting very heavy weights because a big muscle produces a lot of force.
Right.
But in any case, so yes, definitely
So
there's
still doing lower reps, big compound movements, still getting stronger.
Yeah. And most
But where's this different from like other phases?
Yeah. So typically what we would do there is, even if we were doing sets of 5 and 6, we would rest, 2 or 3 minutes. We would make some weight changes, work with a different percentage, feel very prepared to lift our next weights, and build up that way, or do a heavy set and work on back downs. This doesn't quite work that way. We're going to get to a certain percentage that is going to be manageable but challenging. And then we are actually going to, which we very rarely do, is superset our main strength work with other strength work. So this is going to allow us to train total body in the strength section. We're going to do it on a clock. So our recovery is compressed. So there's going to be a lot of metabolic demand.
We'll sacrifice some performance.
Yeah.
But we're doing that for the effect.
Yes.
For the outcome.
The performance is the ability to do the work in that amount of time, rather than the performance just being the weight on the bar.
Right. Not just trying to drive up the best set or the most amount of weight, but rather the most amount of work in this period of time.
Yeah. And there's a time for that, right? We do that a lot.
This is the time.
Yeah. And
Summer is the time.
Yeah, this is the time for this. But there's plenty of times where we emphasize just getting stronger on the lift over multiple sets. That's really valuable too.
Make sense if it was a strength focused outcome.
Yeah. But if we're talking about like Memorial Day just passed, summer's right around the corner, everybody kind of wants to look good and feel good. And, that's not everything, but there are times to work on body composition, and body composition means a lot of things. It can mean, bone density. It can mean hormonal health. Obviously, it means the amount of muscle mass you have, reduction of body fat. So while a lot of this is focused on aesthetics, because people do want to look good, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, body composition also really affects like your health and your future performance as well.
Bone density?
Oh yeah. Particularly with like the barbell lifts that we spoke of. So not to get like too tech, but there's something called axial loading, which is basically like loading on your skeleton.
Yeah.
Right? So if you load weights on your skeleton, and we'll bring up the back squat again since we've been talking about it this whole time. If you load weights on your skeleton, just like your muscles get stronger from lifting weights, your bones also get stronger from having to support that weight.
Just having it on your frame.
So yeah.
Is that true over a certain threshold? Because it doesn't apply to like bicep curls. Like a back squat and a bicep curl, it's going to have a different effect, right? A different axial load effect.
Totally. Well, like I think 2 things here, which is one, you're typically not going to use as heavy weights on a bicep curl as you do on a back squat.
Right.
And think of the nature of the back squat, right? It is sitting on your skeleton, right? It is right on your spine, which is, a lot of people are fearful of, but it does load up your entire body, everything basically from your rib cage down to your legs. And that forces your bones to get stronger.
Yeah. And
more
I feel like a lot of people avoid axial loading, right?
Yeah, sure.
Does axial loading refer to like the amount of weight, or is just a reference of like that there's weight loaded on you?
Weight loaded on your bones.
On your bones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where they're having to support that weight.
Yeah. And your bones certainly come into play with every movement that you do, right?
Yeah.
Obviously your muscles attach to your bones through tendons and ligaments, and they go through the range of motion with you, right? It's not that your muscles just move, your bones move as well. But if you're talking about things like improving bone density, actually having weight on your skeletal structure is what does that. So things like osteopenia or osteoporosis.
Take the exercise out of it.
Yeah.
Like just having weight loaded on you is good for your bone density.
Yeah. You could do like walkouts on a back squat.
Like, so if your goal was just bone density and you're like, I didn't really want to work out, but like every day you just load up some really heavy weight, just hold it on you for a couple minutes of the day.
Yeah.
That over time, that's going to be good for your bone density.
Totally.
That's wild.
It would look very peculiar.
Yeah, you'd be doing something weird.
and maybe not the most efficient use of your time,
Sure.
but
like if you were, that happened to be the only thing that you were concerned with.
Yeah.
Like that would be a type of an effect that you would see from something like that over enough time.
For sure. But like progressively overloading, like just axial loading, like don't get it twisted, even though you don't need a ton of it and you're not moving through the range of motion, like can be very, very demanding.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you load up like a really heavy barbell and just walk it out and hold it.
We've done that.
Yeah. It feels like it's crushing your soul.
Yeah. It's a wild feeling.
Yeah.
So at this point we're smoked, right?
Yeah.
We've in the primary strength section, we're trying to get people to put out as much work as possible in a confined period of time.
Yeah.
So what's left for the auxiliary?
Right. So we're going to alternate between in that main strength section, upper body, lower body. So you're shuttling nutrients all over your body.
Yep.
Driving up some metabolic demand.
Yep.
Which is nice.
And
you are going to be smoked.
And putting out a lot of work.
You're going to be out of breath.
Your
muscles are going to be taxed.
You're going to be.
Oh yeah. You'll be a sweaty mess.
Messed up.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going to feel like you just did a sprint or something like that. I mean, it is going to be demanding. So you have to balance this out.
Yeah.
But the other thing that people really like, when it comes to body composition training is the muscles that you can see, the mirror muscles, the things that kind of show up in your t-shirt or in your shorts or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So, and those are less demanding to train than kind of your prime movers, like your big back muscles or your big leg muscles.
Right.
So we're looking more at like,
so you don't have as much energy, but you don't need as much energy for those particular types of movements.
Yeah. Yeah. They're less demanding.
So this is a good time to make it very efficient.
Yes.
And you can still work the outcome, which is like the aesthetic look, getting ready for summer, looking better, work on the muscles individually.
Yeah, totally. And everybody thinks like, when they walk into the gym, like I'm going to be able to bang out for an hour and just go hard. And it doesn't really work that way. You put in a good 6, 8, 10 minutes of strength training, like it is tough.
Yeah.
So you need to kind of balance this out with something else. So yeah, we're looking at like biceps and triceps and shoulders and calves and kind of the smaller muscle groups, less demanding, still really important, still contribute to your strength work later on for sure. But they have that aesthetic appeal. They're not as hard to train as things like back squats and rows and chin ups and deadlifts.
Right.
Good place to put that.
Right.
So that's what we're going to be working on there.
Mm-hmm.
So, which is great.
And then you chose like kind of intervals or, repeats, whatever you want to call them in the thaws or in the finisher. I always thought that, just from watching sprinters and sprint athletes that are basically doing sprint intervals for their training all day, and they always have incredible body composition. I just always felt like if you're going to be doing conditioning to get ripped, like do sprint intervals.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like that works, that plays out.
Yeah. Yeah. A few things that I think will benefit people here, which is one, it allows you to stay very focused. You're not trying to figure out a bunch of different movements. You're not getting on and off the machines. You can really focus on your technique. You can really stay present. You can look at your numbers and really kind of understand what you're shooting for interval over interval. So that really works. It does allow you to put out a lot of work. So again, getting heart rate very high, a lot of metabolic demand.
And you feel it set after set. I mean, even late in a workout, when you are gassed from the rest of it, but you are on a single thing and you do your first couple sets, you do start to feel like, oh, I know what to do. Like I can do a little better. You do feel it build. If you're doing like 5, usually by the third, you feel better than you did on the first.
Yeah. You know what to expect, right? You know how much you can push.
Yeah.
You know what the recovery time feels like.
Yeah.
You definitely have more information.
Yeah.
So you can make like a more educated exertion of effort. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it does that. It allows you to stay focused and present, allows you to be like very tactical.
Mm-hmm.
it does the job of driving up a lot of metabolic demand, which is the kind of the thrust of this workout. And then, always bringing it back to performance, because we are a very performance-based facility, even though this is more of an aesthetics-focused training block, is that we have test week coming up. As these intervals get longer, they'll just become more and more relevant to the benchmark conditioning workouts that we put our people through.
1K ski, 2K row.
Yeah. So it should have
2K bike. Do we do a 2K bike?
We do a 2K bike erg. We do a 50 calorie fan bike.
50 cal fan bike.
We do some acid bath stuff. So we have some 3 to 10 minute conditioning benchmark workouts, a mile run.
And they're all single effort.
Single effort.
Yeah.
Single effort.
Just go for it.
Yeah. It's a really good thing to test. The other thing with single effort, everything we're talking about here, whether it's the back squat or the conditioning, when you have one thing, when the program looks very simple, this is when you should really be concerned, because simple workouts are the most difficult. If you ever walk into a gym, if you ever walk into our gym and it just says back squat on the wall and there's nothing else, be worried, because back squatting for an hour is, regardless of how you do it, is very difficult.
Yeah.
So variety tends to give you a little bit of a break from effort.
It's tricky, right? So
yeah,
like you said, the more simple it is, the less complex, probably the more scared you should be.
Yeah. Yeah. If you see a very, very simple training plan, it's going to probably be very hard, if it's designed by someone who knows how to dial up the intensity appropriately for something like that.
Yeah.
So if you're doing an hour of anything, be cautious, whether that's an hour of back squatting or an hour of sprint intervals or something like that. It is very tough when you have a lot of variety in your muscle groups and your body are sharing the load. It can still be intense and still be very effective. I would argue that maybe for most people, it's more effective to do it that way. Mm-hmm. But there's some advantages of that, both mentally and physically. Whereas if you're just doing one thing, it is hard to stay on task and really get the most out of it. So I would worry way more about seeing, one exercise on the workout than 12.
The opposite of what people would think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, all right, we're all going to get ripped in the gym. We're all going to get ripped,
all things considered, right? If you eat too many or, eat too many pizzas and drink too many White Claws, it's not going to work. But you got to stay on top of it.
This is the thing. This is part of the disinformation of the internet, that you can do anything quickly, in the gym, that anything, you can move the needle, you can drive outcomes, but that you're going to get anywhere in a week, you're going to get anywhere in a workout. It just requires more than that to create meaningful change,
Yeah. I think the way you have to think about it is not so much in terms of how am I going to reach my goals in X amount of time? I think the way you want to think about it is how can this next 4 weeks put me in the best position to reach my goals? Right. So while it does take time, there's still a lot of value in putting a lot of effort into what it is I'm doing, how I'm doing it, how intently am I doing it, how consistently am I doing it, am I getting all the lifestyle factors right? Those are the things you want to think about. And you can move the needle in 4 weeks if you do those things. But more importantly, imagine you string together 4 of those 4-week things and you do it all right, or 20 of those 4-week things and do it all right. I mean, you can really, really get somewhere in, 4 to 6 months of training if you really string all these things together, and stay focused and do all those things, rather than if you just wing it for 4 to 6 months, you'll get somewhere, but it certainly won't be as efficient and as effective. And I think that's the thing that people miss is yes, it takes time. Yes, a lot of things will work, but you should be in it at some point to get the most out of the things that you're doing and think it through so that the hours you do spend in the gym yield the utmost results. I mean, that's just smart.
As we're talking, I'm thinking about this phenomenon that I noticed on the internet too, of the amount of people that are doing, they call mini cuts, mini bulks. Mm-hmm. And none of these people are bodybuilders. None of them.
Yeah.
They are bulking or they're cutting, and it seems like the mini idea is better because, like, there's just all these stories of people just gaining way too much weight, and or if you're not eating enough or you're just fasting, you're just going to get way too skinny. But I used to kind of, going into this conversation, I was always kind of thought like, this is so stupid. You're not bodybuilders. What are you doing bulking, cutting? Like, why even think about it that way? Just think of where do you want to go and perform, train, eat in the way that's going to head in that direction long term. But going back to the psychological engagement part, it's really important for even high level trainees, people that are influencers or that, dedicate their lives to the gym, to create that story. And if the story is, okay, I'm going to get a little bit leaner now, or I'm just going to get a little bit bigger now, even if it's not extreme to the point where they're standing on stage like a bodybuilder would, it drives a level of engagement to their training. Mm-hmm. It creates some connection to what they're doing, to the outcome that they're trying to get. Right?
Yeah.
You need the story. If we were all like mental robots, we would probably be training way differently. We'd just things would be very consistent and very slow, but probably, a straight line is the shortest distance between two points, probably more effective. But we require a story. We require meaning.
Yeah.
It's really difficult for us to just do it forever without anything changing.
Yeah. But I think the person who does the best, combines both. And what I mean is, certainly think in terms of training blocks. Give your training block a certain story and a certain progression. Write it all down. Have it be meaningful. See yourself doing better improvements in the gym, whether it's weight on the bar, number of reps you've done, paces on the machines. All that is super important. But the person who can put together a 5-year roadmap, and if you're a little heavy, let's say you're doing a 200 calorie deficit, and if you're looking to gain muscle, you're doing a 200 calorie surplus, and you're banging in protein and carbs around your workout window, and you're making good food choices, right? The person who can do that for 5 years is going to win. Mm-hmm. I write this blog post every week. People like it. It's 600-800 words. People enjoy it. I get good feedback on it. No one is going to say it's War and Peace. War and Peace is a masterpiece that has stood the test of time, and it is a big work that gets you from point A to point Z over the course of 800 pages.
Yeah.
And you cannot do that in a short story. There's great short stories out there.
Yeah.
Nobody considers any short story a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Right? If you can do it for 5 years, don't get too extreme. Follow those rules for yourself. That is the way. If you really need to mini bulk and mini cut because it's psychologically engaging and you want, to put on muscle in the winter, and then you need to strip fat in the summer, and you're just going to be chasing the same 5 pounds up and down.
Yeah. But to your point, if you're still really doing the same thing and you're on the same trajectory, you're giving yourself a different flavor, mm-hmm. For a season. You're sort of tricking your mind a little bit because you're really doing the same thing. You're really doing the same training. If it has a little different feel to it, maybe there's a slightly different intent to it, but it's not like you're going from Pilates training to bodybuilding training. You're not doing these big extremes. You're still doing the training. You're lifting the weights. You're doing the same movements. You may change the reps and sets a little bit. You may change the way that you format some of the sections of your hour that you train, but you're still being consistent. And the best people are just consistent. They're not stopping and then switching to cycling or something.
No,
from the gym.
Totally. And training should progress, right? There should be variety. You look at the best athletes in the world, whether these are collegiate athletes, professional athletes, Olympic athletes, right? Even their training has an off season, a pre-season, an in-season, where the focus is different, the intensity is different, the amount of work they're doing is different based on, where they are compared to their games, or where they are compared to the Olympics, or
Yeah, they are preparing for 4 years,
yeah,
but it isn't a straight line.
right. Or, how much of their sports specific training they're doing, right? So all these things factor in. And I think, we can take from that and learn from that too. You do not want to get caught doing the same program for 5 years either. That typically doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like people get distracted with the, this has been working, and now I'm going to go into 1,000 calorie surplus to see what happens. And then they kind of blow the last, year or two of training because, they got bored. People get bored. That's human nature. In almost any endeavor, it's the person that can persist and stay on the path that usually wins. And it's hard to do that.
Mm-hmm.
In training, I mean, not even the training is no exception. I think actually for training, it's even more of the rule, because training is demanding and it is uncomfortable, and you want to do something different. You want to escape. A really good trainee is sitting in the parking lot on leg day going I do not want to go in there, because they know how bad it is. So I understand the desire for escape and variety, but the person who can kind of stay with the path, have some ebbs and flows, right? Have some peaks and valleys in their training, that it's just very planned and thought through, but kind of stays the course, I think still typically wins.
Brings up an interesting, relevant thing that's going on in New York right now, which is High Rocks.
Yeah.
It's a new event. I mean, first off, what is High Rocks?
So I think High Rocks is two things. The basic answer to what is High Rocks is it's a fitness event. They call it a race, where you combine 8 kind of strength and conditioning stations intermixed with 8 1K runs. So you're running 1 kilometer. It's about 0.63 miles. And in between those 8 1-kilometer runs, you're doing some different events. This could be pushing a sled a certain distance, pulling a sled a certain distance, skiing, rowing, wall balls, 8 events. The nice thing is they run one of these every weekend, every 2 weekends, somewhere in the world. This has become an international thing, and it's always the same thing. So it's always the same events. It allows you to really standardize it, see how you stack up against the rest of the world in your times. They do it as solo. They do it as pairs. So that's really what it is.
It's a fitness event.
It's a fitness event that kind of really biases towards running.
Right. A lot of 8 1K runs in there. So
every other thing you're doing is running.
Yeah.
Right. And you're probably spending more time running than anything else.
Yeah.
So if you enjoy running, or you're good at running, you'll probably be pretty successful.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what it is. That's one thing. The other thing that it is it's a thing that allows you to give your training some meaning. It's all the things that are involved in it. It's a challenging event, but it's a low enough barrier of entry that people can get through it. These are things that most people can do if you've been training. Not a lot of people don't finish. You don't need high skill like snatches and swimming and some of the other things that CrossFit has become kind of famous for, that a lot of people are just I can't do that. I can't make the minimum weights, or whatever the case may be. Here, everything is pretty accessible if you've been training.
Mm-hmm.
So I think what it does is it just gives you a benchmark, something to shoot for, something to train for, some place to express your fitness. It's a big community event. We'll have 50 or 60 people who end up doing it. It's nice to feel like you're part of a team. And it's nice to go out there and be like, hey, listen, I trained for the last 6 months. Let me do my thing. Feel good about it. Have some nachos with your friends after it's over. It's good.
If you're doing strength and conditioning over a long period of time and you're doing it well, you should be pretty prepared for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's an event that makes sense, that would encompass all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. They did something really smart, which is it's really well organized. It's really well executed. Like I said, it's not as challenging as CrossFit because the skill demand is not as high. It's not like Spartan race where you're running in the mud and like, risking an eye infection. Like it's pretty much like, this is like, I think a lot of people look at this and be like, oh, this looks hard, but I feel like I can do it. And that's the really smart thing of it. And I think it's right. I think most people can get through it. There's no cutoff, you can, I would say most people, the average time is, let's say maybe an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Ballpark. If it takes you 2.5 hours, it's fine. They don't shut down the finish line like nothing happens. It's kind of like the marathon. There's people who run the marathon in 2 hours and 15 minutes. There's people who run the marathon in 8 hours. Like they're both running the marathon, right? So this is the same thing. You're not going to win at 2.5 hours, but you can do it and, pick up your badge and get your super cool photos and, you're good. So I think it's really smart in that way.
Yeah. What do you think it tells you about society that something like this has gotten so popular?
That's a great question. I think it means people want to feel connected to their fitness. They want to feel connected to other people they do fitness with. I think people, contrary to everything you hear out in the world now, I do think that we do still feel like we need like in-person connection with our bodies and other people. And I think this is like a good venue to like get that done. It's a good time.
It's different than a marathon.
Yeah. What do you think? Why do you think that kind of people are so engaged in High Rocks?
Well, one, I think being strong is cool now. And I think to your point, it's a way that you can go push a very heavy sled, right? It doesn't require a lot of skill, but you do have to have a level of strength to move it across the room. And you have to pull it, you have the rope pull. You have wall balls. You have a lot of movements that require some strength. And I think it's cool to be strong now. It wasn't always cool to be strong.
Yeah.
For a long time, it was cool to be built, or it got cooler and cool. I think it's still cool to be built, but I think it says something about the value that society has put on strength, just general capability. Your ability to move this thing across the room. And I think, I think it also says that like CrossFit kind of missed the mark, like for what it wanted to be, because it lost people somewhere along the line. It grew in popularity really quickly. As soon as it started getting so unattainable, I think people lost interest in it. Some, because it was just for the freaks out there that could do 30 muscle ups and 300-pound snatches and swim a mile, and it just got too far.
Yeah. But
they designed something that doesn't change. All of the movements are very approachable. They're all reasonable, that it wouldn't take a ton of skill to be able to do it. But if you want to be the best in the world, you can really dial it in, and you can work very specifically on these movements and on these events and get really good. And that also like indicates a high level of strength and a high level of conditioning. I mean, have you seen these like top competitors in High Rocks? They are crazy looking humans.
Yeah.
They are wildly strong and fast and capable. They are workhorses.
Yeah. I'll tell you what my concern for High Rocks is these days. Is I hope it never gets too big or particularly too lucrative, that what happened with CrossFit happens with this, where basically people are like, I'm going to quit my job and just train for this. And then it all just becomes basically like pro athletes. Cause I think that would ruin it.
Yeah.
I think, and it's starting to happen. Like a lot of, like you said, the CrossFit thing is like kind of waning in popularity a little bit. So a lot of the top CrossFitters are coming over to High Rocks and putting up really impressive times, because they are really impressive athletes. And they are people who've made their life out of being full-time athletes of gym specific movements. Right. So this makes sense that they would be good at this. But what I would hate to see is this like Matt Fraser, 3 workouts a day in his basement, his fiance cooking for him, and he never leaves the house and he never does anything else. Like, I love that this is like, some, 43-year-old accountant comes in and like, wins the thing because he's been running for 20 years and all of a sudden he can do this. Like, I hope it keeps a little bit of that, but it seemingly heading in the direction of it's enough popularity that people are like, it's attracting higher and higher level talent. And I don't want it to edge out the kind of normies who like kind of do this, for the same reason we do it and the same reason our community does it.
As you say it though, what's interesting is like better and better athletes are doing it, faster and faster times, world records are being broken, but it feels like the star is the everyday person still in High Rocks, where that wasn't the case in CrossFit. It wasn't the everyday CrossFitter that was sort of celebrated. It was like, look at what like the highest level CrossFitters can do. And that like became the representation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're aware of like the really good people, but I mean, I feel like the star is the person from your office that, lost 30 pounds and got themselves in shape and did a High Rocks,
Yeah.
To me, like that they are the ones that are really celebrated.
Yeah, I hope so.
Because
I hope it stays that
where
way.
it's different is the CrossFit Games was, for the most fit people. I mean, they let anybody, into it. It was an open format, but really quickly it was like a couple dozen people.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody could continue beyond that. Every High Rocks, everyone is participating.
Yeah.
Most everybody there isn't breaking any records or doing anything that crazy.
Right.
It's just a couple 6 or 7 people that are really, that extreme level pro athlete, High Rocks athlete. I don't know. I could see this. It'll be interesting watching it play out.
Yeah.
But it is different.
It's different.
I don't see it departing as much as CrossFit did.
No.
Between the high level athlete and the regular, everyday athlete.
Right. Yeah. I think what High Rocks, what CrossFit became ultimately was like a sporting event.
Yeah.
Right. It became like, let's get our best athletes. Let's put them all out on the field. Let's see who the best one is.
Mm-hmm.
I think High Rocks, there's certainly people who win and there's fastest times and there's rankings, but the everyday person is not shut out. I mean, as long as there's tickets to be bought,
mm-hmm.
which is becoming harder and harder. These things are selling out quick.
Running's like that.
Yeah.
Marathons are like that.
Totally.
The star of the marathon is like the everyday marathoner.
Yeah.
It's cool. There's somebody that wins. It's amazing what they can do. They keep getting faster as well. Unbelievable athletes. And it's very cool to see. But I mean, you go outside New York City on marathon day and it's like, it's just the people participating. Yeah. They are the heroes.
Yeah. And I mean, that's like, High Rocks is, I think they're expecting like 15,000 people at this New York one, which is like, I think 3X of the next biggest one. So, it's like usually a 5,000 person event, I think. So
this is the biggest one ever?
Biggest one ever by far. But like in New York City or a Boston Marathon is, whatever, 10X of that, so it's a whole different thing. Yeah. No one goes into the marathon, right, thinking they're going to win. No one's like, this is my year.
Usually 2 or 3.
Yeah. This is my year. Yeah. 2 or 3 people in there.
Out of 50,000.
Right. And everybody knows that they're going to be the ones who win, right? Like it's one of these 10, 10 men or 10 women who are going to win it. So yeah, I think it's different, but I think that is more comparable. I think it's more comparable. The interesting thing with CrossFit is it's got a big divide. There were people who really wanted to take it in this like pro athlete direction. And then there were some people who've been around who even more to the, like, every person should be able to do this. This is fitness for everyone.
Yeah.
They had just a big rift and they couldn't quite settle on what it is that they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But I think the High Rocks thing is kind of pretty well defined. I think it's just a matter of, do they stay the course? Do things change? And you'll certainly see better and better people. I think the odds of, bringing flags home. So they do like flags for first, second, and third place. I think the odds of bringing a flag home, even compared to 2 years ago, is just way, way more out of reach. Like you need to be significantly good to be able to do that. But maybe that's just the nature of something getting popular and
more people doing it.
More people, better people, right?
More people to compete with.
Yeah.
It's more difficult.
Yeah. But I think overall a net positive. People are out there expressing their fitness, doing it with friends.
Yeah.
For us, we'll have a good contingency of people there. You see a lot of people running around in Fort shirts, having a good time, cheering for each other. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's what we do in the gym expressed in kind of somebody else's event where we're not creating the event, and our people can go out there and have a good time and do it. It's and fairly related to what we do. That's certainly not like, one-to-one what we do here. I think we lean into like strength training a little bit more than the high rocks thing, which tends to be a little bit more endurance based, but, certainly our people get fit and capable, and the more they train with us, the better they do at high rocks. And that's always exciting when you improve your time. So I'm excited to see people do it. And
if you're somebody that isn't doing anything, like a real beginner, like somebody who has no experience training, hasn't ever been part of gym culture or exposed to gym culture, and they want to get started with, training like we do, or doing something like high rocks, or just like being that type of a person, where should they start?
Yeah.
What is the first move?
Yeah.
Seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Like I'm not in those shoes. Obviously it's just I've dedicated my life to this, but it seems overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, the good news is, right, there's a lot of information and resources out there for people. And the bad news is there's a lot of information and resources out there for people. And it's hard to know where to go and where to start and who to trust. And I think that's becoming more and more so the case. I would say in general, right, it's very case by case dependent. What can you afford from a time perspective, from a financial perspective? What are you willing to put into this? How serious are you willing to take it? What really appeals to you? I would say the basics, if you're somebody who's brand new, I would start with trying to strength train 3 times a week, if that's possible. If you have access to a gym, if you have access to some resistance equipment, that's where I would start. If you cannot, running outside is fine. Playing basketball is fine.
Take a step back for me for those people though. Like even like, what does it mean to strength train?
Yeah. So you need some sort of resistance, free weights, machines, bands. Resistance is resistance.
And yeah, I think that what you're getting at too is it's measuring what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like we're not talking about building muscle or like developing your biceps exactly. And we're talking about starting with figuring out how much resistance in something you can do.
Yeah.
And start a process to see if you can increase the amount of resistance that you could handle.
Yeah. The nice thing about being brand new, and when we said everything that's maybe not great about it, which is it's overwhelming, it's confusing, you don't know what to do. The nice thing about being brand new is that almost everything's going to work.
Yeah, because I have to imagine if you're really interested in getting into strength training and you really are a beginner, you might not even need any weights. Like you might be able to do that with body weight movements, push-ups, just air squats.
Yeah. But here's the thing I think most people miss on this. Because most people think body weight, or they think weights are dangerous, or weights are more advanced. Real body weight training, if we're talking push-ups, pull-ups, air squats, those are very difficult movements for most people who have no level of strength. The nice thing about weights is you can pick up 5-pound dumbbells and do a chest-based movement, maybe your chest being your prime mover, and have something effective. A push-up, you're going to be lifting more than 5 pounds of your body weight. So that's really hard for some people. So I don't want people to confuse like body weight with being easier than weights. It's not always the case. But I think what you want to do is you want some sort of full body workout, ideally arranged by a professional who knows what they're doing. If that professional can guide you through it, even better. So what you're looking at is 3 total body workouts a week, if you can afford that. From a time perspective, some people can only afford 2. So 2 to 3. Follow a program. Whether this is something that you find on the internet, which again, that has problems, but like, again, anything's going to work in the beginning.
Right.
So you're probably going to be okay. 3 times a week, total body workout. Find one. Go to a very low cost gym. Blink, Planet Fitness, your building gym, your complex gym, whatever the case may be.
Access to some machines.
Something typically you can do something for under $30 a month if you can afford that. Right? And go through that program the best you can. Try to progress it by making it a little harder, a little heavier, and you'll learn as you go. Like, that's part of the process. And ideally, you're in an environment where people there will help you. From there, if you can, go to a larger fitness group where they're using some resistance tools. This will be guided for you. A lot of it's going to feel like organized chaos because that's what it is. It's very hard to do effective training in groups of up to 30 people. But if that's what you have and that's what you have access to and that's what you're comfortable with,
and maybe, great. Maybe better than doing it on your own for where you're at. Maybe, depending on what you have access to and kind of what your knowledge base is.
From there, try to do a smaller group, 12 people. You can do what we do, 4 people at a time. Now you're starting to get like real intervention. You're following a program. You're having coaches look at you. You're getting technique tips. You're getting weights being written down and tracked. You're being progressed appropriately. If in the beginning you want to do one-on-one coaching with someone because you really want that attention, it makes you feel more comfortable, that's great. Obviously now the financial commitments are starting to creep up as we get kind of more and more coaching and more intervention. But wherever you are on the spectrum, I would say 2 to 3 times a week, strength training, total body. And you can kind of figure that out on your own, or you can get as much professional help as you need. But the strength training just contributes to all the things that people want out of training so much more effectively than anything else. It's not that cardio isn't effective. It's not that dance isn't effective. It's not that Pilates doesn't work. But for what most people want, which is body composition improvements in how they feel, improvements in health markers, improvements in longevity. Strength training is just very efficient, and very effective. So I would just start there if you really don't know what to do. And then just figure out kind of like what is your investment? What are you willing to put into this? Time-wise, money-wise, effort-wise. And just kind of align the setup for that. And I think that's a great place to start. It doesn't need to be more complicated than that. 3 times a week, total body, follow a program. There's free programs out there, and find a place where you can progress it with some weights, and weights can mean anything.
Yeah. It's like, get yourself into a habit where you can measure your progress and keep doing it if you're making progress and it's measurable. And when you find that you're at a place where you either can't measure it anymore or can't tell if anything's changing, you need to look to people that might be doing it at a level that seems higher than you, and kind of follow their lead. Like do what they're doing. And you can keep doing that all the way up. To the pro athletes, and what are they doing, and dial it into that level.
Yeah. But I mean, at the risk of sounding insensitive, right? Like, every town in America at this point pretty much has access to a gym for less than $20 a month. And you can get free programs online. Are you not willing to invest $20 into this goal, into yourself, into your health and well-being? And I understand for some people, maybe that's out of reach. But I think for most people, you should be able to do that. And the only thing that's really holding you back is your effort in making it happen and going and actually doing it. It's 2 or 3 hours a week. You should be able to do it. If you're a single mom working 3 jobs with 2 kids, I understand. Yeah. But for most people, you should be able to afford the $20 and go 2 or 3 times a week.
Dude, I don't think it's the money. I think for a lot of people, it's the belief that it's going to work. I think they're just disenfranchised that it's going to work. for them.
How- but in I get that if you put a time constraint on it, if you're like it has to work in 4 weeks,
Yeah.
getting back to this, sure,
And I think that's part of the problem.
yeah, for sure.
Is
But
there's not a fair expectation of like the time, and it will work if you give it the time and you do the right things.
maybe one day we'll come up with something better. But as of right now, from both an anecdotal and research-based perspective, we do know that this works. We know that it does. So yes, it may take longer. Yes, you may be further away from where you want to be. Yes, your genetics may be difficult. But unless you have a condition or a disease or something really, really, everybody thinks that they're different than everyone else. But unless you really can point to something and say like, this is a reason I can't do this, most people can do it and most people will benefit out of it. Some people will benefit faster. You could be like somebody like me. I can look at a weight and put on muscle. That's always been the case since I've been on the gym. So I'm like, that's always been lucky. But losing weight or controlling for body fat and like, that's something that I need to put a lot of effort in. I can't just wing that and have it work, right? Like, so you're going to figure out that certain things are easier for you and certain things aren't. But strength training is effective for everyone. What it looks like, how long it takes, what your goals are, that is kind of up to you. But it will work. It is in reach for a lot of people. I think it's in reach for more people than than the amount of people who do it, or believe in it.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, like the problem that they're having or they might be having in getting started is the problem that they'll fix. The problem that they were having in getting started is the problem that they'll fix.
What do you mean by that?
So it is the self-empowerment problem. When you get into training and you see the input and the output, and that what you do, what you invest into it, you do get something out of it. And it's your decision and it's your control, and you're the one showing up to the gym. You're the one that's focusing on the set. You're the one who's keeping track of the weights that you used. You're the one that continues to dial in, and you get better and better results. It gives you power for many things. It's a great way to start a process of self-empowerment because it's really clear. And to your point, it works every time. If you do it, it works every time. And in that process, you learn how it works. And yeah, you didn't know how long it took or why the weights mattered or what movements to do. But as you learn those things, you start getting more control, and you know what the outcome should be if you do it right. And then you realize it's just a matter of, closing the gap between what you want and where you're at is just a matter of improving the resolution of the detail of what you're doing in the process of it, to where you bring your nutrition into it, you bring your diet into it, you start measuring the calories in your meals and the amount of protein in your meals, and you realize that has an effect in it. You start realizing, the amount of sleep that I get and the quality of my sleep actually allows me to train better. I make better decisions. I have less brain fog. I feel more like myself. I have better energy. If I make this food choice over this food choice, it's going to have a better effect. But you realize all the power's on you. And then in the process, now you're somebody who can, believe in yourself. You believe that you can make things happen for yourself. It's the best way to do it. It's the best way to learn that skill.
Right.
And I think often people, after training for a while, they realize it was never really about the health, although it's a wonderful side effect to feel good and feel healthy in your body. But it was the lack of empowerment that they felt, that they didn't believe that they could make anything happen for themselves. And it's really simple, and it can be really small, and it doesn't take much. But it's a cool thing about self-belief. It gets stronger too.
Yeah. And I think self-belief and confidence is a sign of health. It may not be physical health, like, your blood pressure going down or whatever. But I do think it contributes to a lot of like your mental health and your feeling of well-being. And I just cannot believe that doesn't contribute to your overall health and your stress levels and everything else that you're dealing with. It's like really important. But I think people are trying to like start at the end. Like, you professional football players do not start by being professional football players. They start by throwing the ball around when they're kids, like just throw the ball. Yeah. Throw the ball around.
my 3-year-old has a horrible spiral.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you got to throw the ball around for a while first. Like just don't put so much pressure on it. Like you don't need to be great at the gym. You need to go. You need to buy the ball and throw it around a little bit. And if you could do it with someone else, that's great. It's going to help. If someone else can show you the ropes, that's fantastic. But even if it's not, like it won't be the most efficient way, but you'll get there. We talk a lot about like, the principles of exercise science and all the other things we've talked about here and arranging things optimally and all that's true. Like it is the way to get the most out of the hours in your gym, but like you can go in the beginning and really not know what you're doing and still get a lot out of it. And the chances of you hurting yourself, honestly, are pretty low. I think people worry about that too, but you're almost too weak to hurt yourself. Just don't overdo it. It's fine.
It's those teenage years you have to worry about in strength training.
Right.
It's not the beginning.
Right.
It's actually after you start like figuring things out and you get a little too overconfident where you put yourself at risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest risk you have in
Early
the beginning
on,
is dropping the weight on your foot.
Yeah.
It's not hurting yourself while you're doing it. Like you're just, and this is not a dig. You're just not strong enough to really hurt yourself. Like your body's way more capable than probably your skill set of moving weights is. It's when you do, the skill set does start to develop and you start to kind of get a little over your skis that you can put yourself in a bad situation. But for most people starting off, like if you start off conservative, it's going to get you somewhere and it's going to be safe and it's going to work, and relish that time because it's fun. It's a time of discovery. And you get a couple of years of like not having to have everything optimized and still get a lot of results. And guys who've been training for 20 or 25 years would kill for that because they need everything exactly optimized because they're so far down the road that for them to get anything out of it and progress it at all, they really need to be dialed in. So it's a nice thing about being new is that anything will work and you don't have to like micromanage it and you can just do it and get out there and you're going to be sore as shit and it's absolutely fine. But it's like, it's really going to get you somewhere and it's really exciting. If you stick with it for 6 months or a year or 2 years, you're just going to get very far, particularly if you can dial in the other lifestyle stuff too. And like, and maybe this becomes a keystone habit for you. I'm going to the gym 2 or 3 times a week. I'm spending the money. I'm doing the research. My muscles are so sore. I'm like, I'm not going to, get hammered on a Friday night, or I'm not going to eat 2 pizzas because I don't want to ruin it, and like these things start to build on each other. That's what happened for me, for sure. One habit it was just training so hard. It was just like, well, I don't want to blow it with this other crap, like I don't want to waste it.
Yeah. Well, it's a cool thing about sacrifice. It's like when you're invested in something and you care about the outcome, that you're willing to give up other things that you might enjoy, but like aren't serving the goal.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels amazing to do that. I'm a sacrifice junkie. It's like there's something that I really love about having a clear target and kind of shedding the bullshit that's holding you back and that you just keep doing that you don't need. It's like cleaning house. It's the best.
Yeah.
It's the best feeling because it does. You bring something like exercise into your life, there won't be room for a lot of, the same things that you had before it was there. It's going to push some things out. And hopefully it pushes out stuff that wasn't really helping you or serving you, beforehand.
Yeah. But fair warning, it may rattle the other people in your life.
Definitely. Yeah. Particularly if they aren't interested in going down that road with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost definitely will.
Yeah.
Because you're going to change and they will sense that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think people love predictability. And when you stop being predictable, it's very hard for people.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, value of like being in a culture, a gym culture with other people that are on that path, they understand the value of growth. I mean, these are all people that are growing. So you make friends with people that value that, where it's part of their value system. And you've supportive friends along the way, that understand and also are trying to change and grow and evolve.
Yeah. Any endeavor requires a support system. It's just very hard to do it alone. People want to think they can do it alone. There's something romantic about it, or something, feels very courageous. But most people do not do things alone. You need people in your corner.
It's part of my process of messing up, and is I always start something by myself.
Yeah.
Thinking like, I can figure this out. But that's step one.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just recognize like, okay, sure. Like poke around a little bit, go to the gym by yourself,
Yeah.
see what happens, you keep doing that. And you're going to seek a class, you're going to seek a program, you're going to seek a trainer or mentor or friend. But the faster you can find a support system, community, coach, program, guidance, somebody else, you're just going to save yourself a lot of time. That's been my experience. Every time I learn something new, there's a process of me going at it by myself. And the longer that I do it by myself, the longer the whole thing takes. If you want to speed it up, find other people.
Yeah. True in everything.